McCain and the Neocons have lost it. If you are not with us, you are working for Putin. Now, on the Senate floor today, John McCain, well, he exploded, and he went off on Rand Paul and said he's working for Putin. And if you haven't seen the clip, here's the clip.
Mr. President, if there is objection, and I note the senator from Kentucky on the floor, I will say before I read this, if there is objection, you are achieving the objectives of Vladimir Putin. You're achieving the objectives of trying to dismember this small country that has already been the subject of attempted coup. I have no idea why anyone would object to this, except that I will say, if they object, they are now carrying out the desires and ambitions of Vladimir Putin, and I do not say that lightly.
Mr. President? Senator from Kentucky.
I object.
Objection is heard.
Mr. President, I note the senator from Kentucky leaving the floor without justification or any rationale for the action that he has just taken. That is really remarkable, that a senator blocking a treaty that is supported by the overwhelming number, perhaps 98 at least, of his colleagues, would come to the floor and object and walk away. And walk away. The only conclusion you can draw when he walks away is he has no argument to be made. He has no justification for his objection to having a small nation be part of NATO that is under assault from the Russians. So I repeat again, the senator from Kentucky is now working for Vladimir Putin. I yield the floor.
Now, as you can see, Senator McCain, he was very upset about what Rand Paul did. And Rand Paul, well, he blocked the NATO ascension for a tiny country called Montenegro. And we know that the neocons, the deep state, they wanted this country incorporated into the NATO alliance because this was a strategic location to go up against Russia. Because, as we know, they're trying to start war with Russia. This is their end game here. They want a war with Russia. And of course, anyone that stands in their way, well, they say, the neocons, John McCain, that you're working for Putin if you're not doing what we want. So it's either you're with us or you're working for the Russians, which is absolutely ridiculous. And we can see right now that we need to understand who John McCain is, because at the start, he is the one who met with the moderate rebels. He's the one who met with the Islamic State, who is working with the Islamic State, who says he intimately knows the Islamic State, and they've been supporting these terrorists for years. They have caused the refugee problem. They have caused financial devastation in these countries. They have caused horrific acts of terrorism in these countries, all for their agenda. Look out in Ukraine. Well, it just so happens McCain shows up there. After the coup d'etat, driven by Victoria Nuland, the deep state, the neocons, they pushed out the elected president in that country, replaced it with a puppet government, and just a couple of weeks ago, Lindsey Graham, John McCain appeared in Ukraine, telling the Ukrainian people it's the year of the offensive. It is time to go to war with Russia. And here is the clip of when McCain and Graham were in Ukraine.
2017 will be the year of offense. All of us will go back to Washington and we will push the case against Russia.
Ми всі повернемося до Вашингтону і ми будемо відстоювати санкції проти Росії.
Enough of a Russian aggression.
So we can see that he is a warmonger. He wants war, and they're setting up the entire world to go to war. And if you don't agree with him, or you're not doing what he wants, guess what? You work with Russia. You work with Putin. Look what he said about Flynn.
The House Speaker said this morning that it was very much appropriate for Flynn to be talking with the Russian ambassador and others during the transition. Is it possible too much is being made of these communications?
Well, I don't know what was said, but there is a question, then why did he deny it?
Would you like Flynn to testify?
I want questions answered first. I think we got to take this step by step.
You've obviously been calling for this bipartisan inquiry largely into Russia. Is it time for the Republican leadership to join you on this call?
I believe that there is a need for bipartisan investigation of the Russian efforts to affect the outcome of the election. Now, on the Flynn issue, I think that we need to ask questions first and find out whether the scope of that committee or investigation needs to be expanded.
So Flynn was working with Putin and Russia. Look what he says about Tillerson.
Let's turn our attention now to Rex Tillerson, who looks to be the pick of President-elect Donald Trump for Secretary of State. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I am concerned about his relationship with Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin is a thug, a murderer, a KGB guy who only wants to restore the Russian Empire, who has murdered Boris Nemtsov, the leader of the opposition, in the shadow of the Kremlin.
So Tillerson might be working with Russia or Putin. This is a pattern with McCain. If he doesn't get what he wants, he just points his finger and says, "You're working with Russia, you're working with Putin. Because if you're not with us, you're against us, and you're with Russia." So his agenda is to start war with Russia. His agenda is not to the people of the United States. Now, you can hear more of all of this in the full report, which is on the X22 Report YouTube channel. And those reports are Monday through Friday, one on Sunday, and they're between 6 and 7 Eastern Standard Time. And if you want to listen to incredible interviews, you can go to the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel, where you can hear interviews with Cliff High, you can hear interviews with David Morgan, you can hear interviews with Michael Snyder, you can hear interviews with David Stockman, Jim Rickards. So head on over to the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel, and you can hear all the interviews there.